Here's the question. Sometimes I run into LinkedIn members who I need to know their email address before I can connect with them. How do I deal with this? Here's the example. So I go look for my friend Reva Adams. Here she is right here. And I go anywhere I go to connect or go look at her profile and I send her a connect request. I've got to know her email address. To verify this member knows you, please enter the email to connect. You can also include a personal note. I've got to know her email address or I can't send her an invite. And by the way, there's no way around this. You've got to put that email address before you can get to add a note or send. Actually, can I add a note? Yeah, I can add a note now, but I have to have the email address before I can get to her. So I can't send her an invite to connect. So how do I deal with this? How do we make this happen? Well, you could force the issue. You could find that email address somewhere on the internet, and you could ask somebody you know who may know her email address. I'll give you one tip. You could go to the mutual connections and you could ask your mutual connections to look at her contact information and get her email address if she puts it there for connections. Most people do, not always. So that's one way you could do it. You could scrape the internet. You could go to her website and scrape her website and try to find her email address. You could do that. I wouldn't recommend doing that. A better solution, especially if you have mutual connections, would be to reach out to these mutual connections and ask them to email, call, text, and introduce you to, in this case, Reva. A warm introduction is the best thing you can do to be able to get connected and then have a conversation with Reva. Another tactic you could use is you could, in the context of people that you are in groups with, mutual groups, and if you don't know this person in this group, see all, but you want to connect with Julie, you could, again, I recommend look for mutual connections. But if you don't have any mutual connections, you could try sending a message, which would be basically an in-mail message through groups to the people you're not connected with. And you could start a conversation with them through that in-mail. You could also go to their LinkedIn account. You could look for their activity, and you could engage on their activity and see if they'll engage back with you. So a couple options of overcoming I don't have the email address. Number one, ask for an introduction through your mutual connections. Number two, go find their content and engage on their content in some meaningful way and see if you can get them to respond back to you. Number three would be to go look and see if you're in a group together and you can send them an in-mail message through a LinkedIn group. Number four is if you're using premium LinkedIn, especially Sales Navigator, you could just simply send them an in-mail and make sure that whether it's an in-mail or a group message, make sure that message is all about them in some real meaningful way, not just, hey, we're in the same group or we have mutual connections, but make it about them, their industry, their business, their role, and hope that they'll respond back to you. And if you do, you can start the conversation that way without even being connected on LinkedIn. And since you can't send them an invite, maybe they'll send you an invite, or maybe later on they'll move you to outside of LinkedIn in a real human conversation or a more human conversation. And maybe you can get their email address then and send them an invite. Stop trying to force an invite to people who don't know you yet. Instead, get introduced, get into a conversation, and then maybe connect. Hey, I'm Teddy, your LinkedIn and Sales Navigator strategist, trainer, and coach, and I hope these ideas are useful for you.